Hi everyone, it's Fran here. Welcome to my room, guys. Hope you're well today. Today we're going to be talking about INFJs and conflict. Apologies if there's a bit of background noise because my housemate is using the vacuum cleaner. Hopefully you can focus on my voice. Don't forget you can get my book, The Ecstatic Soul, on Amazon, links below, as well as my new novel, The Infinite Castle. Rumor has it the main character is an INFJ. So I'll let you check those books. Links below, less than $10, my friends. Okay, so why is it interesting to return to the topic of INFJs and conflict? Just wanted to observe some, or to share with you some, observations I've kind of collected on the topic in the last few weeks and months in relation to the difficulties that INFJs often experience, with conflict. And conflict is not just about the experience of actual conflict, but the willingness to put yourself in a situation from which, among many different possibilities, conflict might emerge. So that's very, very important to factor into the equation, okay? Because a lot of the time, conflict does not happen. But to be assertive in a certain way, to be quote unquote disagreeable in a certain way, also means taking a stance such that one is prepared for the possibility of handling a confrontation of some sort, conflict of some sort, in the broadest possible sense of the word, if that should be the outcome. Knowing that in fact it mostly is not the outcome, because only a small minority of people seek conflict and enjoy conflict for conflict's sake, So most people have an interest in not experiencing conflict, going through conflict. There's a difference between those who are ready to face it if necessary, and those who will try to avoid it at all costs, including by making themselves more agreeable than maybe they really are, only for the sake of being able to avoid conflicts. Okay, and the idea being that ideally, we want to be assertive to a healthy degree, right? Doesn't mean that we have to be like super disagreeable and super assertive, but to have the level of self-assertion that allows you to, progress in your life, progress in your career, progress in your relationships, and impose yourself. Have a sense of self-respect which emerges from the idea that, your individuality and your personality is vindicated through your choices and through your stances. INFJs can, and one big challenge of the INFJ is that kind of conflict avoidance issue that they can have, meaning that they will, perhaps more than an average person of an average type, will sometimes fall prey to tactics of, like I said, exaggerated agreeableness to avoid conflict, submission to the will of other people, and its corollary, because the frustration that comes with that never completely dissipates, the passive aggression, which means being able to express a certain kind of discontent without experiencing the direct confrontation itself, and passive aggression being a method and a tactic which is toxic and neither good for the INFJ nor for the party that is experiencing the passive aggression. So to say that INFJs avoid conflict because they're sensitive is a little bit vague, and it's a little bit insufficiently clear, I think. The question is to try to understand why it is that they can experience an issue with that and how to work around it. And the main observation that I want to share in this video, and maybe also probe you for your thoughts on this, is that yes, okay, I think we can admit that perhaps on average an INFJ is, slightly more sensitive than, maybe extroverts or people who are T-types, right? Introverted and F-type maybe makes you more exposed to a certain kind of sensitivity that will not, chime with willingness to confront if necessary. But at the same time, I don't think that that's the only reason, and I think that that's something that can be negotiated even if it's part of who you are. And the other sides that I wanted to delve into a bit more is the question, isn't the confrontation and the possible eruption of conflict something that the INFJ experiences as dangerous or experiences as threatening? They want to avoid it because at some level we are concerned that our faults might be exposed, that as a result of the conflict we might come out less impeccable than perhaps we thought of ourselves until then. And in other words, I think that there's a link between this relative fear of conflict and the harshness that the INFJ can sometimes experience about themselves and the various areas in their life where they think that they're not behaving or doing as well or as consistently as they could. I think that there is a kind of ethical dimension to this, that whether they are conscious of it or not, a lot of INFJs are they're ethically austere in terms of what they expect of themselves, but being human beings, they're usually not able to fulfill those demands in every department as much as they would like to. They have faults, they're aware that they have faults, and they tend to kind of take the path of least resistance and live with those faults. I think that contributes to conflict avoidance, because I think that in order to have the confidence to be confrontational, an INFJ is always going to need something more than just their resources, their direct resources for conflict or confrontation. I think that an INFJ is never more able to handle conflict, to not be afraid of conflict, and to possibly thrive through conflict and resolve a conflict. They're never more able to do this than when they feel empowered by being, in some sense, by being morally right about it. But by being morally right about it is not just about, okay, this particular topic, I know that my position is correct. I think it also has to do with, I know my position is correct, and I know that in most departments of my life, when I've identified that the position is correct or is the right position, I take action and I embrace this, and I actually let my acts coincide with my judgments. And so needing to have the confidence that your position is correct in a particular conflict is very important, to have that kind of impersonal ethical backup that has to do with FE a lot of the time. Plus, being able to rely on a self-image that is constituted of a background of previous alignments of judgment and action. In other words, ethical consistency and self-consistency is also very important. It's something that I've observed in myself, is that I tended to be more conflict avoidant when in some way I didn't have a lot of regard for myself as an ethical being. But once I started taking more measures and started to take up an attitude which was way more consistent, in some sense I could summarize it as ethical self-confidence, right? It's not about ethical hubris. You always have to be careful, that you don't fall into an idea that whatever you do is right. But INFJs have a strong critic function, so I don't think that's a massive risk. But the awareness that you're leading your life in the best way possible that you can, that you have this kind of dignified ethical self-respect. Dignified ethical self-respect, I think, is key to giving you that extra resource that then allows you to handle the conflict. When you know that you have a position and you stick to this position, it's ethically correct, you know it's right, and you know that you have now, so to speak, a CV of acting this way. It becomes then difficult for anybody or any group of people to force you to swerve away from that path. And the possibility that conflict might erupt as a result of not swerving from that path is going to be something that you can handle much better, because you already have that path that has been laid out by yourself prior to this of ethical self-respect. I think that's the extra strength that INFJs need, but I would like to know what you think in the comments, guys. Don't forget you can support me on Patreon. It's always, I'm always very grateful for my Patreon supporters. It helps massively with the channel and helping me continue producing content. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I will speak to you next week. Bye bye.